dear children, after studying the plant tissues, we will come to study the animal tissues, which are of 4 different types, namely epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue and nervous tissue. To begin with the tissues, here epithelial tissue, it is present in the outermost protective layer of the animal body. See, it is not only the skin, but also it covers almost all the internal organs of the body as well as cavities. Anything which enters into the body or leaves the body has to pass through at least one layer of epithelial tissues. Epithelial tissues, if they are in single layer, is called simple epithelial tissue, or it is present in more than one layer means it is called stratified epithelial tissues. It helps in the exchange of substances between the body and its outer environment. So this epithelial tissue forms a barrier between different organ systems of the body. So there are 3 types of epithelial tissues, namely squamous epithelial tissue, cuboidal epithelial tissues and columnar epithelial tissues. Here you can see the squamous epithelial tissue, which are having the group of cells having a very thin wall and a single nucleus and having the basement membrane with no intracellular spaces. So these are found in the places like foot pipe, lining of the mouth, lining of the blood vessels and lung alveoli. So its function is to transport the substances from one part of the body to another part. Coming to the second type of epithelial tissue, namely cuboidal epithelial tissues. These are also called by another name, those are gland cells. These cells, as you can see, they are cube shaped with no intercellular space, having a single nucleus with a basement membrane. They are found in the inner lining of the kidney tubules, ducts of salivary gland. They provide the mechanical strength as well as they help in secreting the certain substances. See, salivary gland. In salivary gland, the cells, these cuboidal cells will be secreting the salivary juice, whereas in the kidney tubules, these cuboidal cells help in secreting the urine. So when the blood is filtered, so the urine is formed and that urine will be secreted out of these cuboidal cells. So coming to the third type of epithelial tissues, that is the columnar epithelial tissues. You are seeing the pillar-like cells here with a nucleus present at the basal region with a basement membrane, so no intracellular spaces. Here if they are having thread-like structures at the one end of their cell, they are called ciliated columnar epithelial cells. If they don't have those cilia, it is called by a simple columnar epithelial tissues. So these are found at the respiratory tract and lining of the intestine. So here the air consisting of the oxygen or carbon dioxide will move easily through the respiratory tract with the help of these cells, as well as in the intestine, food will be moving very easily with the help of these ciliated columnar epithelial tissues.
Let us study tissues in animals by following these slides. Multicellular organisms function more efficiently if cells become specialized for specific functions. There are 4 types of tissues found in animals: epithelial tissue, connective tissue, nervous tissue, and muscular tissue. You are seeing the schematic representation of tissues in animals. Animal tissues are divided into 4 major tissues. Epithelial tissues consist of squamous, cuboidal and columnar epithelial tissues. Connective tissue is divided into areolar, adipose, then bone, cartilage, blood and lymph. Then muscular tissue comprises of skeletal or striated muscles, smooth muscles or unstriated muscles and cardiac muscles. Nervous tissue is separately studied. You are seeing the tissues in this picture. Epithelial tissue, muscular tissue and nervous tissue are seen above. In the below diagrams, you are seeing the different types of connective tissues, namely loose connective tissue, then dense connective tissues, bone and cartilage, then fluid connective tissue, which is blood. You are seeing the cellular organization of different tissues. So in the above diagrams, you are seeing the three types of epithelial tissues, namely squamous, columnar and cuboidal tissues. Then you have muscular tissues and nervous tissue at the second row. Third, fourth and fifth row consist of connective tissues having cartilage and bone, tendon and ligament, blood and the adipose tissue. The first type of animal tissue, that is epithelial tissue, covers the whole surface of the body. It is made up of cells that are closely packed and are composed of one or more layers. This tissue is specialized to form the covering or lining of all internal and external body surfaces. Epithelial tissue that occurs on the surface on the interior of the body is known as endothelium. In this picture, you are seeing the squamous epithelium, cuboidal epithelium, columnar epithelium. Different cellular details of the epithelial tissues can be seen here. Simple squamous, then stratified squamous, simple cuboidal and stratified cuboidal, simple columnar and pseudo stratified columnar epithelial tissues can be seen here. Comparatively, all the different types of epithelial tissues are studied here. Coming to the simple squamous epithelium, squamous cells have the appearance of thin flat plates. The nucleus is flat and elliptical. They form the lining of cavities such as mouth, esophagus, blood vessels, heart and lungs. Protection and transportation of substances through a selectively permeable surface. This is the function of squamous epithelial tissue. Coming to the simple stratified epithelium structure, here cells are arranged in many layers, and the top layers of this tissue may consist of dead cells that are covered with keratin. Mammalian skin is an example of dry keratinized stratified epithelium. The function of simple stratified epithelium is to protect and prevent wear and tear. Coming to the cuboidal epithelium, cuboidal cells are roughly square or cuboidal in shape. Each cell has a spherical nucleus in the center. Cuboidal epithelium is found in glands and in the lining of kidney tubules as well as in the ducts of the glands. They also constitute germinal epithelium, which produces the egg cells in the female ovary and sperm cells in the male testis. The function of this tissue is to protect and to give mechanical support. Columnar epithelial tissue. Here cells occur in one or more layers. The cells are elongated and column-shaped. The nuclei are elongated and are usually located near the base of the cells. Columnar epithelium forms the lining of the stomach and intestines. Some columnar cells are specialized for sensory reception, such as in the nose, ears, and the taste buds of the tongue. The function of this tissue is to protect and absorb the food in small intestine and also secretion of enzymes. Ciliated columnar epithelium. Simple columnar epithelial cells. They possess fine hair-like outgrowths, cilia on their free surfaces. These cilia are capable of rapid, rhythmic, wave-like beatings in certain direction. Ciliated epithelium is usually found in the air passages like the nose. It is also found in the uterus and fallopian tubes of females. This movement of cilia in certain direction causes the mucus to move in that direction. The movement of cilia propel the ovum to the uterus. Glandular epithelium. Columnar epithelium with goblet cell is called glandular epithelium. Some parts of the glandular epithelium consist of such a large number of goblet cells that there are only few normal epithelial cells left. Coming to the second type of animal tissue, that is connective tissue.
Let us learn the second type of animal tissue called connective tissue. See, connective tissue is one which connects various other tissues of our body like muscular tissue, epithelial tissue or a nervous tissue. The examples for the connective tissues are areolar tissue, bone or a blood. See, areolar tissue is found below the skin where air spaces are there along with some of the fat cells. So coming to the another type of connective tissue called bone, which is formed very hard. Coming to the fluid type of connective tissue, for example blood. So it is having the fluid nature. Here in the connective tissue there is one substance called matrix, so made up of cells and fibers. So depending on the type of the matrix, connective tissue may be considered as loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue and fluid connective tissue. This matrix is having certain type of cells depending on the type of connective tissue, whereas it is having the fibers which are of specific nature. Here you are finding a areolar tissue where you can see the fibers. These are white fibers or collagen fibers. So these are yellow fibers or elastic fibers. And here you are seeing the reticular type of fibers which is of a network type. White fibers are in the nature of bundles, whereas yellow fibers are in the Y shape. Reticular fibers are highly branched. So here you are finding certain cells also. So depending on the nature of the matrix, so when it is considered as loose, so first type is the loose connective tissue. Here the matrix is very loose. So here for example is areolar tissue. So when you take a soft tissue present under the skin, that is areolar tissue, we find 4 different types of cells along with the fibers. Fibroblast, mast cells, plasma cells and macrophages. So these 4 cells help in giving the immunity to our body, and whenever tissues are damaged, so they help in the repairing of those tissues. Coming to the types of areolar tissue, we have tendons and ligaments. So tendons connects muscles to bones. Here you are seeing a bone, and when it is there attached to the skin, so you find a tendon here. This is a areolar tissue which connects bone to the muscle. So this is called tendon. Coming to the another type, ligaments, it connects one bone to another bone. Here you are finding a tissue called ligament which is connecting one bone to another. So this is about the loose connective tissue called areolar tissue. Another type of tissue is called adipose tissue. So adipose tissues are the group of cells having the large amount of fat inside them. Let us study the second type of connective tissue called dense connective tissue, which forms bone and cartilage. See, bone provides a framework to the entire body, where it also anchors muscles which supports all the internal organs have been arranged in the concentric circles. So the congregation of all these circles forms a Haversian system consisting of the Haversian canal. So these are the special type of cells called osteocytes you can see here. So this matrix consists of substances like calcium and phosphorus. So where do you find the bone? So bones are usually attached to forelimbs and hind limbs. So examples, arms and legs. So coming to another type of dense connective tissue called cartilage. So this cartilage is somewhat smooth type. So similar to bone, having the smooth texture is found in the regions like nose, ear, trachea and larynx. See, when you take a cross section of the cartilage present in the ear or nose, you find very widely spaced cells. The cells which are not tightly packed, you can see the widely spaced cells called chondrocytes. So chondrocytes are embedded in a matrix called hyaline. Let us learn the third important type of connective tissue called fluid connective tissue comprising of blood and lymph. So blood consists of these red blood cells. See, red blood cells help in carrying the oxygen with the help of their pigment called hemoglobin. Coming to the white blood cells, so you can find here granulocytes and agranulocytes. Granulocytes consisting of neutrophil, eosinophil and basophil, whereas agranulocytes consist of lymphocytes and monocytes. So these white blood cells help in providing immunity to our body, whereas platelets are very small in number. These platelets help in coagulation of the blood.
The second type of animal tissue is called connective tissue. It is an animal tissue that is characterized by the abundance of extracellular components such as fibers and intracellular space substances. The tissue derives its name from its function in connecting, supporting, and binding cells and tissues. Connective tissue is composed of cells and extracellular matrix. Here you are seeing the different cellular structures of the connective tissues. In the first one, you are seeing the areolar tissue, adipose tissue, and reticular tissue comprising the loose connective tissue. Here you are seeing the bone tissue, compact bone and spongy bone. Here you are seeing the dense connective tissue, that is bone. Here dense regular and dense irregular. Cartilage, you are seeing the different cellular types of cartilage tissue, hyaline cartilage, fibrocartilage and elastic cartilage. Here you are seeing the blood tissue, blood comprising of the red blood cells or erythrocytes, white blood cells or otherwise leukocytes, and platelets. Here lymph. So they are devoid of the red blood cells or erythrocytes. They consist only the leukocytes, macrophages. Lymph is a colorless fluid connective tissue which resembles blood, but it is not red in color. It is helping in giving immunity to the body. You are again seeing the different cellular structures of the connective tissue. Here bone, loose connective tissue, fibrous connective tissue, cartilage, blood, and the adipose tissue.
Children, let us study the third important animal tissue called muscular tissue. See, muscles are present in our body. So with their regular contraction and relaxation, they help Muscular tissues are of three types, namely striated muscles, unstriated muscles and cardiac muscles. See, these are the group of cells you can see here. So they with a contractile protein or a muscle protein, so they help in the activity of the contraction and relaxation. Due to that, we can do variety of work with the help of our hand and leg, as well as so some of the internal functions in our body also takes place with the help of muscular actions. So let us study one by one all these three types of muscular tissues. So this is striated muscles. Striated muscles are also called as skeletal muscles. So these are the muscles attached to the hind limbs and forelimbs, namely hands and legs. Here cells are arranged one after the other to form a long tube-like structures. So these are long cylindrical, unbranched and multinucleate cells. See, multinucleate means more than one nuclei. You can find here nuclei. So all these cells are joined together to form a long tube-like structures. So since these are attached to our hands and legs, we can do variety of work with the help of these striated muscles. See, striations are the characteristic features of these type of muscles. See, striations means you can see alternating dark and light bands. See, these muscles, dark and light bands, we call them as striations. So these are called striated muscles. So these are called voluntary muscles because these muscles are under our control. So with our will only we can do work with the help of our hand and leg. So these are called voluntary muscles. So coming to the second type, so these are called unstriated muscles. See, unstriated muscles are also called by another name smooth muscles. So these are present in alimentary canal, that is our digestive system, iris of the eye, a part of the eye called iris, then wall of the ureters. In the kidneys, the urine will be passing through the ureters. So the wall of those consist of this muscular tissue. Then bronchi of lungs and blood vessels. So inside the lungs, the bronchi and the inner walls of the blood vessels consist of these unstriated muscles. So when we look at these cells, so they do not show those bands. So alternate light and dark bands are not seen here. So what you are seeing? A spindle shaped cells or board shaped cells without striations. So these are spindle shaped uninucleate, having the single nucleus at the center of the cell. So these are long cells with the pointed ends. So these are called unstriated muscles. So these are considered as involuntary muscles because they are not under our control. Some of the functions going on in our intestine or the blood vessels or the lungs or the kidneys or the eye, so these functions are not under our control. So they are considered as involuntary muscles. Coming to the third and very important type of muscular tissue called cardiac muscles are exclusively found in heart only. So these cardiac muscles are cylindrical in shape. So this shows branches with the striations and these are uninucleate. So the cells are attached to one another and you can distinctly see a nucleus at each of the cell. So here what is the characteristic features of this cardiac muscle means? So these are striated muscles but you can see the branches here. And these cardiac muscles do not undergo fatigue. So do not undergo fatigue means they do not get tired easily. What are the characteristic features of cardiac muscles? So these show branches. Although they have striations like these skeletal muscles, so they are showing the branches here. and that is the one special character. And another character is they do not undergo fatigue, so they do not get tired easily. As you know, the muscles around the heart will be having a rhythmic contraction and relaxation. So with the help of that, heart will be helping in pumping the blood. So here these cardiac muscles, so from the birth of the organism until their death, they continuously work, and these are also considered as involuntary muscles. So they are not under our control. So this is about the three types of muscular tissues, namely striated muscles, unstriated muscles, and cardiac muscles.
The third type of animal tissue, called muscular tissue, muscles of the body are made up of elongated muscle cells, also known as muscle fiber. The movement of the body is brought about by the contraction and relaxation of contractile protein present in muscle cells. These contractile proteins are actin and myosin. Here you are seeing the cardiac muscles, which are exclusively found in the heart, skeletal muscles, which are attached to the forelimbs and hind limbs. Smooth muscle cells are striated muscles, so these are found in the alimentary canal, so that is in the stomach. You are seeing the striated muscles under the microscope. Cardiac muscles are seen actually like this under the microscope. Then smooth muscles or the unstriated muscles can be seen like this. So smooth muscle fiber are under involuntary control and appear spindle shaped or boat shaped.
Let us study the last but very important animal tissue called nervous tissue, which comprises brain, spinal cord and nerve fibers. So the fundamental structural and functional unit of a nervous system is called by a term neuron or the nerve cells. Innumerable number of nerve cells are present in the nervous system. The structure of neuron is like this. So all these nerve cells join together to form a nerve fiber, so which receives the messages through the sense organs. Sense organs receive the stimuli in the form of impulses and sends the messages to brain for the processing. So brain, after processing, it sends the messages again to our muscles, so that the muscles can show the response. So there is a fine coordination between the muscle tissue and the nervous tissue, which forms the unique feature of animals, where there is a receiving of the stimuli and accordingly to show the response to it. So here, to know the structure of the nerve cell, here you are seeing a cell body. Cell body is having a nucleus with the cytoplasm. The unique feature of this neuron is the cell membrane is branched to form short projections in the form of branches. So these short branches are called by term dendrite. So one of these short branches has become a long form. It has turned into a long structure called axon. So axon is having a fat layer outside it, so it is called myelin sheath. So at its end, it has got a fine branches which is called nerve ending. So whenever sense organs present in our body receives the messages, so the nerve cells present in the sense organs receive the messages through these dendrites. The message is carried across the cell body and reaches the axon, reaches the nerve ending and passes on to the next nerve cell. Like this, the messages are sent all over the body.
The fourth and very important tissues in animals comprises nervous tissue. All living cells have the ability to react to stimuli. Nervous tissue is specialized to react to stimuli and to conduct impulses to various organs in the body which bring about a response to the stimulus. Nervous tissue, as in the brain, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves that branch throughout the body, are all made up of specialized nerve cells called neurons. Here you are seeing the structure of nervous tissue which looks under the microscope. Large star-shaped neurons are very visible. Here you are seeing the ultrastructure of the neuron or nerve cell. It consists of the parts like this, small branches called dendrites, which is there in the cell body, and elongated structure you are seeing is called axon with the myelin sheath and the nerve ending. Neurons have many different shapes and sizes. However, a typical neuron in a human consists of 4 major regions: a cell body, dendrites, an axon, and synaptic terminals. Again, you are seeing the structure here. You are seeing the nerve fiber here. Nerve fiber consists of a number of neurons joined together to form a fiber-like structure. A nerve is an enclosed cable-like bundle of axons, the long slender projections of neurons. A nerve provides a common pathway for the electrochemical nerve impulses that are transmitted along each of the axons.